Ghost Watch Paranormal podcast on Brigade Radio 1, Episode 3.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome back. You're tuning in to Ghost Watch Paranormal podcast on Brigade Radio 1. I'm Paul Roberts, and I'm joined by
Kevin,
Andrew,
Olivia,
Chad.
And we're only missing Johnny this week, unfortunately. Well, actually, fortunately, the missus is back in town, so obviously he has priorities.
Yay!
We fully support it, and hopefully he'll be listening to this afterwards, so we're all excited for him. This week we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a two-part episode. So this week and next week's shows will kind of tie together. It was an episode that we kind of came up with on the fly. Last week we had a really interesting investigation to Virginia City, Nevada. And some of the results and some of the experiences that we had over there kind of was the genesis to this idea for these podcasts. What we wanted to do is kind of like talk about our experiences that we had, what we encountered, and for us as well, we have our special guests here, Tom and Jen Durant. We have a lot of questions for them, and what we're going to do is also have this be a teaching moment for you guys. So if you have any questions, or if you're a paranormal team out there who's kind of beginning, or find themselves kind of in this stage between level 1 and level 2, let's just say, there's questions that you have. Every team has to go through a growing period, whether you have new members or your members are exploring different aspects of the paranormal. Your team has to evolve, and if you don't evolve or learn how to communicate through the new elements that are affecting your team, you fade away. And that's something that we're in for the long game. So we hopefully these two episodes will kind of be a teaching moment for everybody listening. So with that, let's actually turn the clock back a little bit and let's talk about our first visits to Virginia City. So let's kick it off with Kevin. What was your impression? What was your experience the first time you went to Virginia City?
Oh boy, first time, that's been...
What was it, like 3 years ago?
Yeah, like 3 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, it was 3 years ago. That was the first big trip that all of us kind of met each other, except for Chad.
Well, no, we all piled in.
Kevin and I had been before.
Yeah, we went before
Okay.
we went with you.
But as a group, that was our first.
Yeah, but
We all piled into your Jeep and went.
Yes.
We just went.
Yes.
I
No
remember
turning back.
the first time we went, that's when, I think we stayed at the Silverland and we investigated the washout that night.
Mm-hmm.
And...
Oh, the Silverland, how nice.
Oh, yes.
So nice.
They
Now,
had-
if for all of you who haven't been to Virginia City, the Silverland is probably the nicest, most modern hotel that they have out there because they have air conditioning.
And it was haunted, too.
And was built in this century. So, or actually 1900s because we're in 2000s. But anyway, it's the nicest hotel out there. Everything else has literally been built in the 1800s. So, just to set the tone.
Oh, yeah. And our investigation for that weekend was, focused on the Washoe Club, which was a building that was built in 1862. Still has a working saloon at the bottom. Still has bullet holes in the ceiling from the Old West. So you get a little bit of everything there still. And I knew of the Washoe Club from the Ghost Adventures documentary, their original documentary. So getting to go there was kind of a knock off my bucket list. And just being in the places where they have caught some remarkable evidence. It was a very creepy place, and I think we investigated for 3 nights.
Yes.
I believe. The first 2 nights wasn't that bad. It was fairly calm, but then the third night, it's like things finally started amping up. I feel like we're being watched in the sense that we were all on the 3rd floor in what they call the suicide room. It's a bigger room at the top of the stairs. And Paul gets the idea, is like, hey, let's everybody just go out along the exterior walls and try to, bring something back into the center. So everybody kind of split off, and me and one other person stayed in the suicide room with a recorder in the middle of the floor. And we were talking, and you can hear on the recording our distance from the microphone. And it's almost like something looked out from us, or looked out at us, because we picked up a voice on the recorder that said, "They're still here." So to me, it was kind of like they were watching us and thought we had all left when I heard all the footsteps, and then looked in and still seen us.
Yeah, there's something intelligent there for sure, the way that it interacts, all the stories.
Between that and I felt like I had like a handful of gravel thrown at my ankles because I felt it bounce off my pants.
Yeah, we all heard it.
The sense of being watched, just the other voices we picked up there, the footsteps.
Mhm.
It was a crazy place.
It was a good introduction. Olivia.
So, I want to say it's kind of on the same route as Kevin's. My first big investigation in Virginia City was with all you guys when we kind of just decided to do our road trip. And keep in mind, I barely knew any of these guys. I only met them once, probably for like an hour or two.
It was kind of the longest, roughest like interview you'd ever want to have for a job.
Yeah, that was the initiation, I guess, for the team. So it's kind of like, yeah, let's hop on. And I just had a good vibe about it. I didn't get anything bad off of it, and I was like, yeah, I think this is an experience that I should go and do. So we did it, and it was I think one of the most memorable times that we've ever had as a team, because it kind of started everything off. But anyway, so going there, that was a little bit different. We weren't fortunate enough to stay at the Silverland. Instead, we stayed at the haunted miner's cabin.
That's right.
And
That's right.
dun dun dun. And I had such crazy experiences there. Just staying at the miner's cabin, and then also at the Washoe Club. Keep in mind, this was my first real investigation, so I went in blinded. I mean, no protection, no nothing. What's protection? What? Johnny, did you bring a condom?
Spiritual protection.
The bed was shaking.
No, yeah, it was. So it was just crazy experiences. The first night at the miner's cabin, a lot of boot stomping into the kitchen, footsteps, doors closing. My bed shook in the middle of the night, and it wasn't like an earthquake type of shake. It wasn't like a put a quarter in a massage bed type of shake. It was more like someone at the end of the bed was kind of pushing it up and down, like, "Hey, get out of my bed. This is my bed." And just felt like there was a gentleman at the foot of my bed just staring me down, like, angrily. It wasn't really too pleasant. So I didn't get much sleep. Next day.
Now, when it was happening, you were awake.
Yeah.
And you thought it was Johnny. And then Johnny was awake.
Mm-hmm.
And thought it was
the
you.
first night he slept through it.
Oh,
The
he did?
second
Okay.
night, that's when
It
he
really got a
was.
little bit more.
Yeah, he awoke during the time too. So it happened
Uh-huh.
2 nights in a row. So it's kind of hard to explain in a sense. But yeah, the second night he kind of validated that. He's like, "No, you were right. It was shaking, and it wasn't me."
And the cool thing about it was our friend Edward, who's kind of like the mayor of Virginia City because he goes up there so often. He validated that, and he didn't mention anything to either of you or to any of us what the experiences were of people who would sleep in that bed.
Right.
So when you kind of said, "Hey, this is what was going on," he was like, "Yep, that happened."
And the first time to mention it, I was a little bit hesitant because being new, I didn't want to seem like one of those people that kind of exaggerated everything, like, "Oh my God, I'm getting touched," or, whatever.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, "Hey, I think that my bed shook in the middle of the night," and I kind of was just, I soberly said it, and I'm just like, I'm just going to throw it out there, and then so glad I did because Edward was listening. It's like, what, I'm glad you said that because it's actually, mentioned. So that following night, that's when we investigated the Washoe Club, and that was my first investigation. So being at the Washoe, definitely super active that night. I saw this weird type of ectoplasm shadow. I don't even know what it was. It almost like morphed into like a bird, and then it was a blob, and then something weird. And I heard like a creak within the floorboard right in front of me, and it kind of felt like something was coming up to me, as I saw that. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then going back on audio, there was a gentleman. I hope it was a gentleman that said "F you" to me. So.
Oh yeah, we get
That's not
that.
very gentlemanly. They say that to Kevin all the time.
I got that too up in the red room that night.
But those are real people.
I
So
just
that
remember
was
it being
my-
super cold.
Yeah. So it was a crazy experience, but it was, I think, just being around us and everything was so new and everything was just like positive energy and whatnot. It wasn't a crazy, it was a crazy experience, but nothing bad or anything.
Right,
So.
right. Well, going back to what you were just talking about, and that's kind of like, something to share, is that being able to be comfortable around your teammates to share. If you have an experience, you have to be comfortable to say, hey, this is what's going on. Because there might be somebody else who's holding back saying, well, I don't want to be that person either. So somebody has to,
Yeah.
otherwise.
Well, and just to add something too, a buddy of mine who's a scuba diver, one of his things is you don't go scuba diving with people that you don't trust to have your back.
Right.
Because it's dangerous.
Right.
And I've always treated the paranormal in the same way. It's like, yeah, it's a hobby, it's fun, but there are things we don't fully understand in that realm, And so always go with people that you trust. Now, you sort of got lopped into the deep end there, Olivia, but...
Yeah, I did.
I mean,
That seems to be my learning experience. It's
Yeah.
just-
But I mean, like that's something for new teams that I always try to push is like make sure you trust the people around you because it really is important. It also makes the energy better because if you're all going in, you're in a positive place and you like each other. It's a lot better than if you're going in brooding at each other like, oh, this guy was doing this before and this
Right.
guy's like this and I don't like this girl anymore.
Right.
That energy feeds what's there.
Yep.
Period.
Yep, and that's why we're really good about the vetting process, who joins Ghost Watch and how we do it, because we have to like each other. I mean, first. I mean, otherwise, like you were saying, Tom, what's the point? It's no fun.
Yeah, when you're sitting in a room 8 hours, nobody talking, you have to feel comfortable because otherwise,
Yeah.
8 hours of uncomfortable silence is terrible.
Oh yeah, well, you should see the car ride back from Virginia City. That's uncomfortable. 8 hours of silence.
Silence, we sing.
Andrew, just because I want to see Chad sweat some more before he gets on the mic. Andrew,
I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
I thought that was a great trip. We had a lot of fun on top of the investigation.
Because that was your first time too. That was your introduction to.
As a team, yeah,
Yeah.
because we did the SS Victory and all that stuff.
Right.
But that was like the first trip as a team. I got to learn a lot about you guys, and we really bonded, I think. And it scared me away. I never wanted to come back. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. But as far as the Washoe Club goes, and I think I might have talked about this earlier, was when we were coming down the stairs. The thing that I always think of when I think about the Washoe Club is when I got pushed coming down the stairs, and it wasn't like I want to push you down the stairs kind of push. It was like you want an experience. Here's your proof that I'm here. You feel me.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's up, bro?
Now, did you go in there with that thought of like, you got to do something to make this happen, or otherwise I'm just not going to believe?
Well, I did, but I wasn't
Uh-huh.
expecting like a push, like a what's
Surprise.
up?
Yeah.
That would have been better, but
Literally, careful what you wish for.
yeah. And then Johnny and I, we were in. Is it the Red Room? Is that what it's called? The Red
Yeah,
Room?
I think
Yes.
it's on the 3rd floor.
Mhm.
That's where you got called out, Kevin.
Yeah, he didn't like me.
Mhm. No, whatever that is in the red room, it didn't like anyone in there.
Well, to be fair, I think Johnny and I were doing something we weren't supposed to. We were kind of being antagonizing to it, telling it we were going to turn its room into a
How
bathroom.
dare you?
Oh my God.
And you were talking about painting it pink.
Yeah, painting it pink and.
Well, but it was out of truth because the now owner, Nick, right, the
Right.
new owner. So he
Yeah.
was saying that he's going to be tearing everything down, rebuilding everything, and so we were kind of, or you guys were asking it. So what do you think of this? Do you like that your room is going to be pink now? Do you like? So I don't think it was out of bad intentions, but it might have come across.
I'm sure it came across. as
Yeah.
bad
Okay.
intentions. I'm not gonna
It
sugarcoat
was a sensitive
that.
subject.
I'm
you
not
know.
gonna sugarcoat it. We weren't supposed to be doing it, but we did it. Maybe that's why I got pushed. I don't know.
Get out of here and stay out.
How dare you paint it pink?
I'm leaving.
But the Washoe Club, I think, is the oldest place that I've investigated. I think.
It might be. I'm just trying to think. It might be. I mean, we're talking about 1800s, so.
So there's a lot of stuff floating around in there.
Oh yeah, the whole town's crazy. The whole town.
But
You
that's-
can't
that's
escape the
paranormal?
ghosts in that town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But the people are great.
They're a lot. Yeah. No, those are the
Okay.
nicest people.
They're
that
going to
you
be
ever wanna
listening to
meet.
this. Make sure you say that the people are great.
We love you guys, especially the guy that's out on the street with the donkey.
Oh, Stinky.
Oh yeah.
He gave
I
That's
love
the guy's name,
Stinky's
not the
ass.
not
He
not
gave
the-
Olivia some sugar.
Oh
his
yeah,
name.
that was just this recent time that we were out there. So.
And we got picture proof.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we've made Chad sweat enough. So, have you even been to Virginia City yet?
I have never.
Oh Lord. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to fix that, I guess.
I'm
Well, I think
game.
the next trip that we're looking at, I think, might be like Tombstone or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Something different. Something a little mix it up.
Still Wild West-ish.
Still Wild West. So I'll flash back then to turn back the time to the first time I went to Virginia City, and it was a brand new town. Hustling and bustling. It was a metropolis.
Place
You know.
what you see,
They
like
were
where it
mining.
says, established 1862 was still being built when Paul was there.
Yeah.
He helped lay the groundwork.
I did. That was my first job out of high school. So actually, the first time that I went to Virginia City, I went with LA Paranormal. I was their guest because I was just kind of starting to explore and figure out the paranormal investigating thing. And, they were nice enough to kind of take me under their wing, and they were going out there to do a special appearance for a Paracon that was going on out there. And so it was really fun, a lot of cool experiences. We got to do the Washoe Club. And I just remember one of the first experiences that I had up there was up on the 3rd floor, suicide room. And we were all kind of huddled in this one hallway that's next to it. Now, mind you, the Washoe Club's been in disrepair. I mean, right now they're trying to refurbish it, as much as they can. But you've got exposed flooring, the plaster's falling off. There's holes in the floor. I think those have been repaired now, though. Structural damage. Windows have been broken by vandals or just by time. So, I mean, it's old and creepy when you think of structures. So we were in this small, narrow hallway next to the suicide room, and it was like maybe 8 of us kind of in a line. We all had our equipment and recorders there in the middle, and we're doing EVP sessions. So, me as the young buck investigator decided, I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to go in the suicide room solo and see what I could see. So, stepped over some things, walked into the room, focused across diagonally from me, and I could visually see the corner of the room. I'm like, okay, it's not that big of a room, maybe 15 by 20 kind of a thing. It's not that big of a room. So then all of a sudden, as I'm looking, the room gets darker. That corner gets darker, where I can't see the corner of the building anymore. I can't see the ends of the windows. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm looking through my camera. I'm thinking maybe my IR batteries are running low or something's going on. So I take a couple steps further into the room. So I take maybe 3, let's say. So as I'm doing that, 3 boot steps kind of come pounding back at me. And so, of course, for me, I was like, well, that's not what I expected. So I jump back, literally out of my skin, trip over some equipment, stumble back into the hallway, and just had the look of like, holy crap, what just happened? So everybody else heard that. So they're like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, something just charged me. So everybody else, and we all kind of huddled in, and we're like, all right, everyone calm down. The more senior members of the team were like, calm down, just breathe. Let's settle in. Let's do an EVP session. Find out what's going on. I'm like, but I got it. Okay, fine. So calm down. So anyway, so they calm me down, and they're like, okay, here we go. So we're doing EVP session. The footsteps never stopped, and they would circle the room, and they were so loud that as they passed us in the hallway through the wall, it would shake the plaster where dust would come down off the wall.
Oh, that's crazy.
And so and that happened for a good 10, almost 15 minutes. One of the girls was crying. Her husband was like yelling because thinking it was somebody playing a joke on us, which we kind of knew it wasn't a joke. So it finally ended when one of our friends from outside came bounding up the stairs and going, hey guys, where you been? We've been waiting for you. We're outside. And it's like, what? Is there anybody out there? What's going on? Did you see anybody go down the stairs? They're like, no, dude, you've been alone in this place the whole time. So that just kind of was like, wow. So yeah, once you step outside, get a breath of fresh air.
Get it out.
Kind of just to wrap your head around what the heck did you
what
experience?
just happened. And then I just remember having the biggest grin on my face going, that was friggin' awesome. Let's do it again. And obviously, as everyone knows, and if you've been on an investigation, it doesn't happen every time you go out. We always say it's like fishing. So you're out in a boat in the lake and you're casting your line, and sometimes you get a big trout, and sometimes you just catch a worm on the end of your hook. And that's it.
Or you snag a branch.
Or a
boot. I caught a boot once.
Wow.
Just saying.
Just one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's too bad. So, with that said, that's kind of like our history with Virginia City. It's always been a place that we love to go to. It's one of our favorite road trips that we take to get out of the city, and just clears your mind. You literally step back into time. So with that, we were so excited to go this past weekend. It's just timing-wise, it was the 4th of July weekend. And we were there Friday through Monday. Some of us were, some left a little bit early, but we were there for that weekend. And we were looking forward to it because, again, it's like old homecoming.
Mhm.
A couple things were different this time, though. You know, we all kind of arrived at different times and days, so it wasn't like the whole team went up as a unit. So that was a little bit different. And the other thing that was different was that we stayed at the Silver Queen Hotel, which was something kind of unique. I mean, it's a very, very infamously haunted location there in Virginia City. So, you know, we were excited to see what the prospects were. There was never any kind of, you know, bad occurrences that were reported there. So we just thought it'd be a fun kind of little thing to say that we stayed at the Silver Queen, you know. Ooh.
To finally experience it.
Yeah.
Check it off your bucket list.
Check it off the
Kevin.
bucket list. Well,
Yeah.
it's been checked.
I don't know if anything happened to me in my room that night, but I did run my X-cam the whole night because I was so tired. I was up like a little over 24 hours by the time we got to bed.
Oh,
So
I
I've
bet.
ran my X-cam. I haven't got to go through all the footage yet, but I'm just curious to see if anything popped in the room while I was snoozing.
Could be. I
Bed
felt
bugs.
a bunch of stuff.
Oh, don't even start with bed bugs.
Bed bugs are popping in yo.
There's no bed bugs. Well, anyway, moving on.
We'll save that for Johnny.
So let's talk. Let's have Olivia actually start with the first part of the story of our. Well, let's go with Andrew. Let's talk about the arrival, and then we'll talk with you. Kind of walk us through like the Silver Queen.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So physically, the place is actually pretty original. I think they haven't really changed much about it since it was built. But you go in, and well, first of all, you check in at the bar, which is always nice.
Which is fun.
Welcome to
It's
Virginia
always-
City.
Literally.
And they give you the key. It's like the standard, you know, lock and key. It's not like a fancy key card. You go up these stairs that are carpeted, like fancy, like frilly carpet, and you go up, and
To the stairs of death.
the stairs of death. There's like
Jeez,
Very
there's gotta be
steep,
over
and
100
all
of
the
those bloody
stairs
things.
there are just long. Like it's not just one story; it's like 1.5 story.
If they don't get you going up, they'll get you coming down.
yes. And as you get to the top, you realize this place does not have AC because it is hot as something else.
Ed balls.
Ed balls. It's hot as Ed balls. But the rooms are actually kind of cute. They're small and they have bathrooms now, which I don't think they did before. You said, Paul.
No, they added water closets to all the rooms, so whew,
Yes.
that saves for awkward moments later, late at
Plus,
night.
you have ceiling fans. So the first night we're there, I'm trying to fall asleep. It's so hot. I have my ceiling fan going. And I text Olivia, who's downstairs on the floor below me. I'm like, can I come sleep in your room? It's too damn hot. Because her room is just a little bit cooler.
I'm like, sure, come on
So,
down.
yeah, she's like, get down here.
Helpful note when booking a room at the Silver Queen, if it's summertime, avoid the third floor like the plague. Again, there's no
It's
there's
like-
no
it's-
AC up there, and the heat rises from the
Stuffy,
saloon
yeah,
on
it's-
up.
It's like
Oof.
an attic up there.
Yeah,
It's just so
yeah.
stuffy and muggy, and you just can't lay down.
An attic is a good way to kind of put it.
Yeah. So I went downstairs and I slept with Olivia, and gosh, what was like 30 minutes into it, we're both laying there like,
Wide awake for multiple reasons, but I'll get to that in just a second.
yeah, we can't sleep. I think we maybe slept 4 hours that first night.
So let's switch over to Olivia now, because now's a good time to do it. So Olivia and I actually, we had the rooms next to each other. They weren't adjoining, but they were next to each other. So I put my bag down, literally maybe a minute from the time that we were separate. So I put my bag down, threw my stuff on the bed, and walked around. Well, first I had issues with the door, but that's another thing. But went around, knocked on the door. Olivia opens it up, and in that 1 minute, she had set up a humidifier with lavender. She had her stones of protections out. She had hung a picture. I don't know what saint it was,
It was
on the wall.
Archangel St. Michael.
Yeah. Changed out the bed covers.
No, I did not.
And
I took the top layer off. I was like, I am not laying on this. I don't know what naked body might have been on this prior.
I mean, it was like a homeroom makeover in 1 minute. It was amazing.
It was very quick. Well, so how Andrew started talking about all the physical, visual aspects, I guess I could talk about all of the spiritual, maybe emotional, I don't know, what you might feel going in. Keep in mind, a week and a half prior, I just got attuned, now Reiki level 1 with Jen, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. So at first I was like, oh, we'll see how everything goes. You know, I know I should be super protected, this and that. I know that I'm going to be more vulnerable and open to things seeing me and whatnot. So I was kind of a little cautious going into everything at Virginia City. So I was like, okay, I'm going to bring all the protection and, you know, just everything, just you know, you never know.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, stepping into the Silver Queen, I was like, whoa, like all the feels. I mean, everything was just swirling. And I mean, it was just a minute while you guys were checking in, you know, to the hotel. And I'm already putting on my oils and grounding and whatnot because it was just insane in there. And I didn't feel it. I didn't think that I would feel something like that. You know, I was just like, oh, I'm not used to it. You know, I've been here before, whatnot. And then all of a sudden I stepped